We are your casters, Edward T.
And Lane Mace.
All right, so tonight to kick things off, we will be starting strong with newcomer Roland Richardson playing Blue-Black Zombies versus another newcomer, Scott McIntyre, with Mono Black Control.
I think this will be a pretty interesting matchup, with neither of them really being pretty just confident and not confident, I should say, pretty consistent with playing Magic here. It'll be interesting to see what they both have in store.
Yeah, definitely. Naturally, you would normally expect a tribal deck like Zombies to be at the mercy of a kill-heavy deck like Mono Black Control. But in this particular case, depending on what's being played, Zombies have insane recursion, and also a number of black kill spells are ineffective against black creatures. So depending on what he's actually using, we could actually see dead spells in hand, allowing zombies to come back.
I definitely know you don't want to play a Doomblade against a zombie, but I would say that Scott's got a good chance just based on the fact that since I have played this deck once before, or played against this deck once before, the way I won it was I just kept removing their creatures, stopped them from getting any kind of ground. Oh, it looks like he's got the land that whenever
Contaminated ground?
Yeah, contaminated ground. I believe that's either when you tap it or upkeep, deal 3 damage.
And I think it turns it into a swamp as well.
Yeah, and either way,
which is
that's
really,
just going to be a clock.
Yeah, really good. He's actually taken the land and just kind of put it to the side. Nope, not using that again. So it's Blue-Black Zombies, but you do see 2 reassembling skeletons come out. Reassembling skeleton. One of the most tenacious creatures in Magic. Let me pull it up.
And there are a bunch of lords that both buff zombies and skeletons, so it's probably very synergistic for the deck. Okay.
Yeah, definitely. Reassembling Skeleton is just a nasty little creature. It can come back at instant speed at any time from the graveyard back to the battlefield. Of course, it comes into play tapped, which is what keeps it from trying to do any kind of crazy, like, insta-blocking mechanic, which is something Wizards constantly tries to avoid in Modern. But it is fantastic fodder, depending on what you're trying to use it for. If you need to exploit a creature, sacrifice a creature, no better creature than Reassembling Skeleton.
Also really good at bringing back that prized amalgam, just to block, attack, do anything. But it looks like here, though, he does end up swinging with it. Or he does hard cast it. Now, moving on to the control turn, draws. Now, do you think this is the same deck that we saw 2 weeks ago with Mono Black Control?
I don't think it's the same deck. If I remember right, that was Keith Ketchum.
It was definitely the same, different person, but borrowing decks and another contaminated ground coming down.
And that's another thing we didn't see from Keith's deck was contaminated ground. Sometimes it feels like a really niche card, but it's actually just a fantastic card for starving a deck, especially if they have no use for swamps. Let me pull it up.
No, it does look like though Richard tapped the land that contaminated ground was enchanting, and he's still at 19. Contaminated ground, is that the correct? Yeah. His controller loses 2 life. Okay. And that should be 4 life lost right there. Just this kind of
So I think what's happening actually is we're having a bit of an error with our life counting tracker, or life counter. We'll remedy that in just a second.
I think the main problem is it switched both Roland and Scott's life totals. So it looks like Roland is the one that's on at 13. Well, now they're both at 13. But yeah, that right there is the Death Baron coming down, which is what I was saying is good skeleton and zombie pump card. And Roland's getting in for the beats here. It's gonna be interesting to see if Scott can find some way to try and take him back down. But it looks like the problem there was they just had the life counter turned around the wrong way, so they were using the wrong sides.
So out the gates, what is this, turn 4?
I believe Roland's missed a couple land drops, so I'm thinking this is turn 5 or somewhere around there.
Start of turn 5. So out the gates, we see a lot of damage coming out. What we need to see though is Scott needs to take control of the board, because Roland is getting his creatures out, and that's where all his damage is going to come from. Sure, it costs him some life, but he does not care. He isn't losing the mana capabilities because the lands are staying as swamps, right?
Yes.
And that looks like Gravecrawler. It looks like the promo art for Gravecrawler.
And there's another one. Yeah, I do believe that is Gravecrawler.
Gravecrawler is it's such an amazing card.
Especially with those prized amalgams, that's just going to keep swinging and swinging. I do agree, though. Scott needs to find some way to control the board. Maybe a board wipe, but the bad news for Scott is Roland can keep recurring those threats, so he needs some way to try and deal with the graveyard.
Yeah, I was once playing against a zombie tribal deck, and I had to deal with a situation. Oh, that's a fantastic card. I'm actually going to pause my story. That's Nihil Spellbomb, if I remember right.
Yes, that's Nihil Spellbomb. Just good graveyard hate, good card draw if you need to or when you pop it, especially since Scott will never have to wait to use the black, or he'll never have to struggle to get the black mana for it. Because mono black, it does that. Oh, that looks like a Bioblight coming down from Scott. Now that's a card I haven't seen in a while, and one that I quite enjoy. 2 black, I believe, for give target creature -3/-3, and all creatures with the same name as it. That kills both of the Gravecrawlers, but once again, just allows Roland to cast them again.
And Bioblight is just extremely solid card all around. Especially in a deck like this, which will play multiples of. There's just, it's a good way to deal with that. Oh, you have the play set out. I like to call it Black's version of Detention Sphere.
Yeah.
Although considerably less effective, but also sometimes more effective.
Now I'm not sure I'm not quite sure what that card is down there, but seems like Scott's taking his time to read it. I believe it's a spell, a sorcery, and an instant. And Roland once again tapping those contaminated grounds, taking that 4 damage. That we just have to hope that Roland can whittle down Scott before that kills him. Now, I've noticed that mono black control, though, is very weak to these go wide strategies, despite the fact of them having damnation and all of these other sweepers. But the fact is, when you don't have that removal or good removal and exile, there's just not much you can do.
I mean, a Leyline of the Void right now would be so good. But yeah. Going back to what I was actually talking about earlier, I played a deck that specialized. It was a black-green control deck, basically, that specialized in building a machine that would just kill creatures constantly, deny my opponent the concept of creatures. And I played against a zombie deck. I think I board wiped him 7 times throughout that game. It did not matter. I couldn't exile the graveyard, and they just kept coming back.
And that'll do it. I assume that was post-sideboard, though. Afterwards, you got in some graveyard removal.
It was an extremely casual setting.
Okay.
Nobody was sideboarding. It was just like a friendly game, just kind of, almost kitchen table magic, but we were actually playing at my old workplace.
Well, zombie decks will do that. Just keep bringing back their threats. Now, I imagine Scott will be siding out his Doomblades and any other kind of removal like that. Scott thinking about what to do here, and another contaminated ground. Unfortunately, though, I think he's just dead on board.
Yeah, I don't think there's enough damage coming out. Part of it, though, I don't know if Mr. McIntyre, God, that's a fun name to say, isn't it? But I don't think he has anything that he can utilize right now since he only has 3 mana. He was pointing at a card in his hand earlier. I think it's a 4 mana drop. He just doesn't have it.
And there come some islands. I haven't seen him play anything blue other than the neonate, or not
Prized
neonates,
Prized
prized
Amalgam.
amalgams, which in that case he doesn't even need to cast those. But in this case, I suppose he did. No, what are you doing? Don't tap those lands. Maybe he's just putting himself down to 1 for the BM. Now that would be something.
And there comes out a Death Baron.
Baron.
Oh, Death Baron's one of the best zombie lords ever made.
Especially because it also pumps those skeletons. That looks like to be a game for round 1. Or, well, that's game 1 for round 1, and it looks like Roland just runs away with it. What do you think? What do you think Scott sides in here?
He's got to get a little bit more graveyard hate. A single in the Hill Spell Bomb is good, but you've got to hit it at the exact right time. Which I actually missed what he Bioblighted, but
It was the 1-drop.
the Gravecrawlers?
Yes.
Huh.
Which is an interesting choice, but it provided the most value at the time.
Yes. I'm actually surprised he didn't immediately pop the Hill Spell Bomb though.
Well, I think he was didn't have enough mana to do both. He had one land tapped.
Well, in the Hill Spell Bomb is tap sack.
Oh,
You have
well,
if you
want to
pay a
grab that
black,
draw, if you want to draw that card, yeah, but
but in that particular case, nah. 2 creatures that are never coming back, way too valuable. So hopefully that he learns on that tactic. He's like, nope, I can't afford to wait. You must go away now. I'm not sure what they're sideboarding. God, I'd love to be a fly on the wall right now.
if it were Roland, I assume you'd get some kind of anti-control strategy, so just some more creatures that come back from the graveyard. Maybe he's expecting that graveyard hate to come in, and just planning against that.
Oh, definitely. Maybe also something to deal with having his lands locked down. I don't know if that was a big enough threat. Like, clearly Roland went down to 1 life, though partly due to his own doing it therein. But
I think he was dead on board. There was no reason to tap down there for the Death Baron, but it made for a good play.
Yep. I don't know if he needs to deal with it. Certainly, it would be a problem if those things came out and hit the lands that he needed. But right now, like you said, you didn't see too much blue that he even needed. So that just makes him stronger in black.
Mm-hmm. And I think that just in general, the Roland doesn't need blue overall. He's probably just splashing the little bit to be able to cast those prized amalgams when he needs to. I imagine there are a couple of other zombies that benefit, but overall, he's probably just mostly black.
Well, one thing I do know, because I spoke to Roland before the game even started, this deck is actually a work in progress for him.
Okay.
He intends to put things like Diagraph Captain, and I think he wants to put a couple other of the actual just blue zombies that existed.
Okay. Stuff from the Innistrad, or not Innistrad. Yes, Innistrad.
Yeah. I'm not really sure what exactly he wants to do, but I mean, Diagraph is such a good lord because he's just like, do not board wipe me. You will regret it.
There is that 1/3 drop that when it enters the battlefield, sack number of creature, or I think it's either sack creatures or discard cards, but it can be cast from your graveyard. It's a 3 mana 5/6, and I'd say that's just good enough. So we're moving on to game 2 here, and seems like Scott will be on the play.
I'm really just interested to see, obviously mono black control, your creature hate, hating on lands. These are good things, but I'm really interested to see what he's pulling out as a win condition. Because right now, black has such good tools to just kind of sweep the game. With a late game Torment and Hellfire Roland is playing blue, but I doubt he has a single counter spell in his deck. So there's no stopping that. There's just I need to have enough to protect myself. But I don't know if Scott has anything like that.
And that'll just come down to whether or not he can do it. Now, coming down with a turn 2 skeleton, I'd say that's a pretty standard play. It's going to be good. Scott does have that turn or that one land open, but doesn't look like he has the fatal push in hand.
It was actually really curious. Actually, I thought I saw 2. I can't imagine Mr. McIntyre kept a 1-mana hand. But I could be wrong. No, there is 2 lands.
There's the 2 lands.
There's 3.
Just had them stacked.
He did have a guess verdict in hand. I swear I saw guess verdict. Could be wrong. I swear I saw guess verdict. But I think he was just held on to it.
And there's the gets. Yeah. I don't know why he would do that on
his turn
instead of maybe he just didn't realize the card was an instant.
I think more that he was waiting, like he was worried about like holding it. Maybe he drew another guess verdict and was like, you know what? I'll spend 1.
That is definitely fair. Trying to stop those lords that come down is a bit more important.
Ooh, what is that?
I am not sure.
Yeah, sometimes it's really hard to see things from the card art.
It really is. Now, Scott's untapping here with 4 mana, or well, 3 mana, playing his land. I wonder what his game plan is at this point.
He's tapping down 4 mana, so something big. That is a desecration demon, baby.
Now that's a fun one. I remember way back when I first started Magic, a friend of mine had a mono black commander deck where he would just get that down, and every combat he'd be like, "Hey, you want to tap a creature? Hey, you want to tap a creature?"
If nothing else, you annoy your opponent to death.
It really does, and it doesn't even have to. You can do it on their combat.
It's also really fun because you have the right to stop them, which throws players off, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, stop. There's a trigger. Let's stop. Do you want to sacrifice a creature? And technically, I believe it's a way of forcing priority as well, because it gives them.
That is true. But I feel like either way, the opponent, or if you do it on, or if Scott was to do it on Roland's turn, Roland would get first priority beforehand, and beginning of combat, Roland would still get first priority because Scott can still do that, but there's no point where.
So I can't remember what it is, but he played that card. It bounces a creature back to you, and then he also played Dread Wanderer, which was the 1-drop to basically the bad Gravecrawler from Amonkhet.
Mm-hmm.
Although in a niche use, it actually sees value because it can reoccur itself, and then from there you can reoccur all your Gravecrawlers.
But at the same time, I imagine that that's going to be one of the first cards. You said this deck was a work in progress. I imagine it's going to be one of the first cards to come out.
I mean, a Crypt Breaker is mountains better. I know he wants to put in things like Diagraph Colossus, start going wide. He doesn't want to go. He told me specifically he originally had like a Lord type zombie deck, and he pulled it back because he just got to the point where it's like, well, everything's a 3-drop. It's too expensive. So he's like consolidating his lords and trying to play cheaper.
At the same time, this is a bit more expensive option, but running the Aether Vials, just turning it into a Merfolk style deck would be interesting.
I actually had a zombie tribal deck that ran Aether Vials, but I traded them up here to Nexus Esports. Got a pretty good deal on them too.
Right now, I'm still holding on to mine, but everyone likes an Aether Vial deck. No reason not to.
It really was one of the stupidest cards ever printed. I mean, it was the card that made aggro way too powerful.
Being able to cast not cast, but play 2 creatures a turn, I'd say, yeah, that's pretty good. It gave rise to both spirits, humans, and even death and taxes.
Honestly, every tribe that ever existed.
Mm-hmm.
It's just, protection from counter spells, instant speed creatures. Too good. So we see the Desecration Demon coming out again. This does mean that Roland doesn't have a way to get around this big old creature. Unless he does that, actually. Oh god, that's going to be unfortunate.
Yeah, being able to just sacrifice that creature each turn, bring it back. There's no downside to it.
The real catch here, the real catch is that while he's on the defensive, oh God, lost legacy. Okay. See what happens.
Naming the skeleton.
I mean, it will stop any other skeletons from existing, but that one's gonna stay.
Yeah. And it looks like Scott's reading the card just to figure out what it does completely, get his knowledge of what's going on a little bit better.
I'm gonna pull it up.
That is definitely a deck that, or a card that I've been wanting to run in some deck, but I don't play enough black to where it's just useful.
It's actually a current sideboard card in my like Esper artifact deck.
Okay.
And it literally is my just answer to combo. Like, oh, you play combo? Here's this. It's cranial extraction that just can't hit lands and artifacts.
The same could be said for extirpate, those kind of effects, because generally if someone's playing a combo deck, you'll have some way of getting one of their combo pieces into the graveyard, whether it's by killing it. And either way, if you're running extirpate or surgical extraction, that's the card.
Ooh, there's a reassembling skeleton in his hand. So one of the big things, I misread Lost Legacy like 5 times the first time I played it. But for every card it exiles from your hand, you draw a card. So he's going to hit the reassembling skeleton in his hand, which is very unfortunate because that gives him draw power.
Mm-hmm. And exiling just means that he can make sure that they don't come back up. But if I were Scott there, I would have waited for...
Whoa, what did he just do?
What did you see?
Hold on, let me go back out there.
Okay. Well, as I was saying to the stream, if I were Scott, I definitely would have waited to cast that Lost Legacy until after combat, so he could have sacked the skeleton, so I could have gotten that one too. But they both said they're both newer players, so those kind of strategies, it may not come as apparent to some people, which is fine. Just as it goes. Now, we're seeing what's going on out there. So I think I see what might have happened here. I think Scott misread Lost Legacy, and he drew a card for the card exiled, which would be quite funny, but that is, of course, not how the card works. And chances are what's going on right now is they're just backtracking to try and take control over everything that's going on. And Edward is out there making sure that everything's going right, enforcing rules. And right now we're just hit with some downtime, waiting for everything to happen. I am interested to see, though, if he checks to see what that enchantment is that Roland has that I can't seem to recognize. Alright, and so Edward is back, and let's hear about what happened.
Hi. So it was a misread of the card. I actually thought that was happening. Mr. McIntyre thought what Lost Legacy said was for every card that it exiles, he draws a card.
And that was what I figured and what I was just saying.
Instead, I corrected that, but since he'd already drawn the 3 cards, we have a bit of an issue, right? He has seen the next 3 cards that he will get. I talked to our resident judge, and basically the ruling is, since no one can confirm but the actual player what cards he actually drew, he has to take his hand, reveal it to his opponent, and his opponent chooses 3 cards to put back.
Yeah. And I've had that ruling even called on me occasionally when I accidentally draw one for a mulligan. And it's a known rule, or it's a pretty commonplace ruling.
Fantastic. I've never ran into this, so usually I work because I play a lot of casual. I trust you, man. You're good.
Mm-hmm. And that's same here. Now I have gone to a couple big tournaments, SCG Dallas occasionally, and I'm going to go to the Hunter Burton Memorial Memorial Open on the 16th, and I do have to sort of readjust myself to those competitive standards. And it looks like Roland does end up sacrificing a creature to tap down Scott's demon, but it seems like there is yet another problem. This is what'll happen when you get two newer players up against each other. But
yeah, quite right. These guys are really new to the game. They're really feeling out these rulings. A lot of it's going to be, this is how I think it works, and without a judge just right there to answer the question, honestly, we're the best they got. So we'll watch team backup for it.
I suppose it is a good thing that we decided to be in charge of we chose this table for the stream.
Oh, definitely. Oh, can you imagine?
So what had ended up happening there?
So what had happened there is really simple. He just didn't see the part where it says tap the creature and put a +1/+1.
Oh.
So he was like, I still have a 7/7 blocker. Flying.
Okay. So he thought he couldn't swing with it, but
yeah.
Okay.
And it looks like he got the creature bounced. I think I missed something.
I believe that is what happened, yes. And there comes the Gravecrawler again. Even if Scott plays it, he's got a zombie on the board.
Yeah, like that might be like, that's gonna just control down Desecration Demon all game. And really he can pick and choose because he can just bring the reassembling skeleton back. I do know, well, it actually kind of depends what's still in his hand, but I did know that Mr. McIntyre did have another Lost Legacy at some point. Might have got returned to his library. But, okay. Gatekeeper of Malakir I think is what that is. It's the Shutu Vampire for 2, +1 black to kick it. If you kick it, your opponent sacrifices the creature.
Well, that's another edict, and on a body and a blocker, I'd say that's pretty good.
Yeah, definitely a good choice. That's definitely not a creature you want to sit there and bounce all day.
Not at all.
Roland getting a lot of blue mana.
Especially since all of his lords cost double black. It's going to be rough for him. Although here he is tapping the 4 blue.
We're going to see something big here. I have no idea what that is.
Me neither. It's a problem with a lot of these less, well, not problem, but it's one thing about these lesser played decks. There are a lot of cards that people just don't really know.
You're not going to recognize them just like that.
That he does have 2 enchantments on board that we have no idea what do. And that could account for quite a bit this game.
Yeah, apparently both players just lost a creature, so interesting.
Might go check to see what that card does.
Okay. And I'm going to stay with you guys this time. Yeah, so really interesting gameplay. There's a Desecration Demon coming out again. Mr. McIntyre really trying to get that 6/6 to stay. It is a control deck, and the way a control deck generally works is it plays a bunch of spells around a centralized concept, if you will, of trying to keep the other player down. And then it will play 1 or 2 big win conditions. Usually just a big creature that either can't be stopped or will just be able to do enough damage in them in time.
So it looks like it is quite the good thing that I went to go check, because those two enchantments do quite a bit for the game. The blue one on the top of the screen at this point says whenever you cast a spell from your graveyard, draw a card, which that provides just incremental draw value and is pretty good for his deck considering how many cards you'll be casting from the graveyard. And the other one is enchant player, at this point is enchanting Scott, and says at the beginning of each player's upkeep, or at the beginning of that player's upkeep, they either pay 3 life or sacrifice a creature. So that could be a good way to just make him sack his creatures. It doesn't seem like Scott's going to have a lot of creatures this game, but the few that he does have a lot of value packed in them because he is playing control. So that could very well move towards ending the game.
So, not sure if they missed that trigger, because I didn't see anything happen.
And that might be a missed trigger. That could, it could just be my memory not being the best when it comes to that card, but
You remember what it was called?
not at all. I've got the brain of a goldfish. Now he does get that second black source though, which is going to be very crucial for and a third one, very crucial for casting lords and other things like that. And
There's that.
there's another prized amalgam,
He's going to probably go get Gravecrawler.
Gravecrawler, which in turn will let him draw a card and return a prized amalgam.
He remembers all his triggers. This is
Which-
actually kind of interesting.
Which
as a
it
deck,
doesn't,
like-
yeah, which it doesn't, oh, here he is. Bringing back the Gravecrawler, maybe. Nope, he's casting skeleton, or
Well, it
returning
won't cast
skeleton.
it. It will activate it.
Oh,
I hope
yeah.
he doesn't try to draw off of it. No, hold on.
Nope.
Let me stop.
Yeah, and that's just another thing. They're both newer players. These kind of things happen. There is a lot of rulesing going on with this. It is relaxed REL, but at the same time, you want to just make sure that the games work how they need to. And getting a peek into his hand, it looks like he's got 2 lands and a Dread Wanderer and a Death Baron. Obviously, Scott's going to choose the Death Baron just because you want to stop him from getting those lords down, start swinging at him. I imagine Edward's also talking to Roland about the trigger for the enchantment up in the top left corner, which doesn't seem like Scott had sacrificed a creature for. But overall, now that we've got this fixed, we can return back to the gameplay.
Also, good news, everyone. We're gonna get somebody over here to kind of help monitor the situation.
Okay.
Because both of these players are actually new, as we've talked about. In fact, apparently this might be Mr. McIntyre's first real attempt at playing Magic.
Well, that's good to hear. We always could use more people.
Always love new players. It definitely hits me down in the cuckles. I believe that was Mr. Dennis Leary's words. Or cockles. Anyway, but yeah, I don't even know where we're at with the game, but
It looks like they're both still pretty high life total, but that contaminated ground coming down is gonna start chipping away at Roland's life total.
definitely. I hope they monitor everything, because I'm not really sure Mr. McIntyre is paying attention to the curse that's on him. They just changed the thing with triggers a little bit. I don't
where
know.
you have to go back, and if it's
Like-
not a missable trigger, if it's possible to go back, then you have to go back. And
There's a lot of yo, you can't just be like, sorry, bro. Basically, we're becoming kinder, gentler men.
Mm-hmm. And the main example I've seen used for that is Summoner's Pact. You can't miss the pact trigger, so you can't refuse to pay, or well, you can refuse to pay the pact, but you just lose. But you can't miss the pact trigger. If you forget and draw your card, you have to put that card back. You have to pay it.
Can you even actually refuse by the current ruling? I don't even know if you can. I think literally you have to pay.
Well, at the same time, if you refuse to pay the pact, just concede. That's it's essentially the same thing.
Can you imagine? I actually once had a game. There was it was like a reprinting of an old creature that had like protection from black and red, but this one had can't be targeted by black or red spells. Player who was fairly new interpreted that as, oh, that might as well be protection. And so he tries to swing through, and I block this 2/2 can't be targeted by with a 6/6 creature. He's like, but it's black, you can't block me. No, that's not how that works. He would not budge. I even brought a level 3 judge over, and the dude told him, no, that's not how that works. Dude wouldn't budge. We were playing a friendly, casual game. He would not budge on it. So finally, I was like, you know what, man? Just not welcome here.
Oof. And that's never the kind of thing you want to see, especially if you don't have a great understanding of the rules. You kind of just need to accept that, yeah, if someone else knows a ruling better than I do, I might as well just not argue them over it and just say, all right, well, as long as it's proved, yeah, sure.
Of course, the best policy is let's look it up.
Yeah.
Like you may know the ruling like the back of your hand, but you know what? Let's look it. I can't ever get over that with players. Like if you don't know, look it up. A lot of things happening here. You see more recursion, more zombies. That desecration demon is basically never getting. Just pile a dead body on it.
It's gonna be able to swing, especially if he can get the Gravecaller being the one he sacks. He gets to draw an extra card each turn.
Oh,
that's great.
This turn, it looks like you see some prized amalgams and recently skeleton coming over. That's a good bit of damage.
Especially with this slower style of game, Scott's not going to be able to cast anything, or not cast anything. He's not going to be able to start swinging, dealing damage. But at the same time, Roland's can't just sit there and wait. He needs to start chipping in damage.
Definitely. And I do believe that Mr. Roland did take game 1. I don't mean this to downplay Mr. McIntyre, because he is doing a phenomenal job for apparently.
If we could squeeze in another game, if there happens to be another ruling mishap, then we would have to extend the time.
Going to kill the prized amalgams. Yeah, I think they've completely forgotten about that enchantment over there.
And while that is something important, there's not much we can do except go and try and force it. And who'd you say was over there?
Mr. Lucas Whittaker? Yeah,
Whittaker, yeah.
Yeah, he's monitoring right now. You actually see his hands flying all over the board now. I think he's actually telling him right now, hey man, you haven't been doing yeah, there you go. See, he's making him pay the 3 life. So he's like, yeah, you haven't been doing that. You either sacrifice that or pay 3 life. Or actually, he can discard a card from his end. It's basically Torment and Hellfire every turn, but for 1. Isn't bad.
Well, at the same time, discarding cards would be would be a lot easier than having to pay 3 life or sack a creature. Only getting those 2. And it looks like that one creature that has the Edict on a stick. But I don't think that there's going to be much value coming out from it.
He'll blow up a creature. Yep. Just pure Gravecrawler, and you know what? I'll sacrifice my duder here.
Although it doesn't seem like he paid the kicker cost, and the Gravecrawler was sacked to tap down the Desecration Demon.
That may be it. But I tap more land. But I mean, Mr. Roland has all the tools right now. All the tools. I mean, he can cast Gravecrawler, and I believe that'll get his prized amalgams back, which is just disgusting. That.
But the question is, it looks like he did not remember the trigger to grab the prized amalgams back yet.
It's a bunch of triggers going off, I think, at the same time. Yeah, see, so...
Okay, here we go.
Yeah, so the way that enchantment reads is whenever you cast a spell from your graveyard, you may draw a card. So it's 2 triggers on the stack.
And
now he's proceeding forward, so...
It looks like he just missed the prized amalgam triggers.
It's unfortunate, but, you know, these things happen.
Which is a shame. That is slowing down the clock for the game, but... Like you've said, they're both newer players. Not much we can do about that.
I think Lucas said something. He's like, these things were actually on the field.
Oh, okay. There we go.
So, once again, Mr. McIntyre's on a clock. He's 6 life. If he pays 3, he's at 3. He knows there are 2 3/3s, and that Desecration Demon's not doing him any good. Honestly, I would just...
Oh, definitely, because at this point it's just providing Roland extra value by being able to sacrifice that Gravecrawler to draw an extra card. Pay 1 black, draw a card each turn. Seems pretty good.
Yeah, ironically, Underworld Connections kind of counters that enchantment. Because it's like, oh, look, you know what? Pay 1 life, draw, because that's what Underworld Connections does. Turns a land into Phyrexian Arena. But, you know, tap, pay a life, draw a card, and then just discard it to not lose 3 life or sacrifice anything.
Does it, is discarding a card a condition on that?
Yeah.
Okay.
It is literally the effect of Torment and Hellfire for 1.
Okay.
Sacrifice an on-land permanent, or discard a card, or you take 3 damage.
Well, paying 1 life for instead of paying 3 is always a good thing.
And it's card cycle, too. You're like, you know what? I didn't need that anyway. No.
But it does look like it's quickly nearing the end with Roland being able to just swing in for lethal here.
Yeah, I don't know if Scott's got anything to really do anything with this, but...
And it looks like here comes a... Yep, there comes a Death Baron.
Oh no, we're gonna stop this.
Destroy target monocolored permanent.
Well, what is that, ultimate price, right?
Yes, that is ultimate price.
Funny. I mean, yeah, it's basically over, but it was a good run, right? Mr. McIntyre did a really good job for his opening game.
And actually, he's got another one.
Well, I mean, you know, gonna do things the hard way.
Yeah, by my count, this game was over a while ago.
Yeah, I mean, it just happens to be a really good counter matchup to the mono black control. Even better than I thought, just with all the recursion. You know, I don't care. I will lock your little demon down. And the bounce. The bounce was critical too. Basically, like, you know what? Do it again. Do it again. Keep doing it again.
Which isn't great because we saw that he had the kicker creature that made the opponent edict. But overall, I'd say that went pretty good for Roland.
Yeah, definitely a good game for both of them, and I really look forward to seeing how they do for the rest of the F&M. But that's about it for round 1, so we will be back with you very shortly. Until then, let's cut to commercial and we'll talk to these people.
All right. All right, welcome back to round 2. I am Lane.
And I am Ed. So looks like, well, through force of wills, if you will, we have both Milton and Ethan playing here at round 2 for the Nexus Esports Friday Night Magic Modern event. These are two regulars to the store. We've seen them time and again. They're very good players, very competitive decks. Milton, of course, playing his famous Cheerios deck.
And Ethan playing Infect. Infect, Ethan being probably the main Infect player here, if not the only one. Milton occasionally will play Infect, but it's mainly just Ethan.
Milton had that Affinity deck.
He generally plays Affinity, but Cheerios is his pet deck. He loves playing it. It's not nearly as competitive, but it seems like every time I play against him, he kills me turn 2 or 3.
So Cheerios, if I remember right, you basically play in a bunch of 0-drops where the name Cheerios comes from. And what is that card? Basically, you play a spell, you draw a card. You play a spell, you draw a card.
There's SRAM and Pure Steel Paladin. And that's where the deck comes from. He essentially plays a lot of Cheerios, or those artifacts, and then he plays a Grape Shot, which kills his opponent. This will be very fun to see, if not a fast game. But I've been told, though, that both Ethan has a very shiny deck, as he likes to say, being mostly foil.
So this is an advisory to all of our audience. Please put on sunscreen, maybe wear some sunshades. Possibly you might want to go into a couple of days of just like vitamin D. Because this is going to be extremely shiny.
I believe from my talks with Ethan, the only cards he needs foil are Misty Rainforests, and I think that's it. So that'll be very fun to see. Looking down, Ethan finds a hand that he does not like, and so does Milton, going down to the mulligan.
That is the thing about combo decks, which in fact is a combo deck.
It very much is.
It's just a very hyper aggro combo deck. But that is the thing about it. You've got to have the pieces in. And they both know that this game could very much end. Which means we won't be here long.
I feel like there more time's going to be spent deciding whether or not to keep the hands than actually watching the game. But
wouldn't it be great if they basically just revealed their opening hands? Like, nah, you win next round.
I will say, though, Milton has a bit more. No, I'd say both of them they are on 8 creatures each that they need to find, and a bunch of spells to supplement those creatures. It's the same way for Boggles. You need your lands. Well, less so for Milton, because all of his spells are free. At most, he needs 2 lands. Whereas Ethan, he'll need those lands to cast his pump spells. So while Milton does have a little bit of leeway, I feel like this is going to be decided by who has the faster draw.
Realize you could play like kind of a green stompy deck and turn to Beast Within and really mess with Infect. Like really mess.
You mean Beast Within one of their creatures, or
hands?
Oh, yeah.
Just deny.
Especially
if they drop a turn 1 like Blink or Inkmoth Nexus, and they're like, well, that's going to be my Infect creature. Now that's just going to be a 3/3, man.
And it looks like Ethan has found a hand he is comfortable with, but Milton's going down to 5. That's got to be rough.
You know, though, that's the thing about these kinds of decks. I recently played against a Jund deck in one of the FNMs here, and he mulled down to 5, and I think I was even on the play. You wrecked me.
Well, mulling down to 5 in that kind of case isn't as bad, because you're on the draw, you'll draw that extra card. You've got pseudo card advantage, whereas Milton needs a very specific set of cards. I think he needs 2 lands, his cantrip creature, and at least 1 artifact to be able to draw with, and that looks like that's what you need to be able to play the deck. Now, the question is, who's on the play? Milton's scrying, so he sees a hand he wants to keep, but not that card on top. Ethan's on the play with a turn 1 Noble Hierarch.
A Noble Hierarch Oh boy, that is a foil Noble Hierarch.
Well, it's a promo Noble Hierarch.
Oh, how much is that card even worth?
I no idea, but it's definitely a pretty penny. Now, Milton with the turn 1 opal. Doesn't look like he plays a land, which might end up being his downfall, but sometimes you don't need lands when you just go off. It looks like Milton's still... Oh, he did find a land, which is good, but with a Blighted Agent coming out, that's going to start swinging, start doing some serious damage.
So for anyone who's curious, that is a $66 card on the table there. So yeah, Mr. Ethan will be here. It's on 6th and Columbus at Nexus Esports.
all right.
Oh man, you know that is such a paranoid. Like,
Yeah, but, well, with any kind of collectible thing, it looks like Milton's gonna try and just get cards down in order to get the double white to be able to cast his Pure Steel, which he does there. Starts casting Cheerios, draw a card, play, draw, play, draw. I imagine in this case he's just trying to dig himself a little bit deeper, and then equipping all of those, making that one fat paladin.
What that gives him? The 2 1/4 shields, Paradise Man.
Means that he can tap that Pure Steel Paladin for mana, which is good, but can't block the block the infect creature. Distortion Strike coming down from Ethan, giving it +1 or +1/+0 and unblockable. Kind of redundant, but hey, more infect is more infect.
Gonna give it +1/+1 from Noble Hierarch.
That's 3 infect.
He doesn't pump it though. That's strange, to be honest.
Oh, in this case, you want to save your pump spells for the final turn. And if Ethan knows that if he can't kill him, there's no point in trying to waste all your spells there. Because if something, say, a path comes down, what do?
What is the thing?
It is one of those, not flip cards, but you turn it upside down.
Okay.
And I believe it's after its condition is met, it becomes an enchantment with counter the first spell played each turn. Well, your opponent's first spell played each turn, which will slow Ethan down quite a bit since that first pump spell countered.
Did something. I think he played something.
Well, the Distortion Strike, since it has rebound.
Oh, okay.
That spell was countered.
I'm extremely surprised. This didn't just like end in like right now. Mr. Ethan's playing somewhat conservatively, to be honest.
Yeah, well, it gives Milton the room to go grab Fetch Shock freely because those infect creatures don't deal actual damage. So I feel like he's got room to spare.
Well, I meant Ethan. I literally would have thought with 2 infect hits that we would have seen game by now.
But at the same time, with 1 being countered each turn, and he had 4 lands in hand, how many lands do you think he has?
Yeah, that's true. It's a weird hand for Mr. Ethan. Ethan to keep. Yeah, there's Milton. fetching that and letting it come into play tap position. I have watched Ethan beat somebody to death with a Noble Hierarch, and it was like, it happens.
Hey, if it works, it'll work. But if I had to guess what Ethan had left in hand, he probably has gives +2/+2 and hexproof. So blossoming defense. So he's waiting for Milton to try and remove that the infect creature, so he can just say, "Hey, no, it has hexproof. I'm gonna kill you next turn." But it doesn't look like Milton's drawn any Cheerios to keep drawing. But with only 2 cards, Ethan's run out of steam too. Who knows, this might just be a battle of attrition, who draws their card first. And in that case, I think Milton is very favored.
Definitely has more draw power, to be sure.
But there is a huge clock on Milton with the infect creature on the field that can't be blocked. I'd say 2 turns at most. He casts a Spellskite. I do believe that spell Pendlehaven Pump on the Blighted Agent, and then the Exalted trigger. And a Blossoming Defense, like I was saying. That'll end game one. Ethan taking it away with Infect. I don't think Milton saw the cards he needed. He had to use those 2 Cheerios at the very beginning to be able to draw, or to be able to activate his Mox Opal. And you just don't want to be using your combo pieces like that. Especially when your way of killing them is through draw triggers and cast triggers.
Definitely.
Alright. Yeah, showing up here is Pure Steel Paladin, the card that Milton uses to keep drawing card. And I do like the fact that it just has equipments you control have equip 0 as long as you have Metalcraft, because no matter what, Milton's gonna get Metalcraft by the end of his turn whenever Pure Steel comes down.
Yep.
So you can just say, alright, all these cards, they're now attached. But Ethan's probably citing in some artifact destruction, maybe some counter spells. Who knows? All he really needs to do is counter the Pure Steel Paladin, and that shuts down Milton's game plan. But at the same time, if Milton can sideboard in some creature destruction, kill his infect creature, most of the time you don't want to see more than 1 infect creature. Ethan didn't want to see more than 1. So that'll be...
Actually, talking about trying to counter things, the only counter that Ethan's running is Spell Pierce, right?
Yeah, but
Spell Pierce can't stop creature spells.
Can't. You're right about that. So that'll be interesting to see if Ethan can find some way to get through.
I have to leave it. Either says non-creature or specifically calls out instant. Not sure. I think it just simply says non-creature.
Well, then we'll have to see what else Ethan has in his deck to try and deal with this. But I've known both of these people for a long time. They're both they're both good players. They know the game well. They know their decks well. So I believe Ethan has Infect in Legacy, Modern, Pauper. If he could play it in Standard, he'd play it in Standard. And Milton's the artifact guy. He runs Affinity, he runs Cheerios. Occasionally he'll run Infect, but I think he traded most of his non-foil Infect pieces to Ethan whenever he started building the deck. So they both know their decks really well. They both know the matchup.
You gotta appreciate the theme a little bit. You have Infect, which was, the mechanic born from the Phyrexians taking over Mirrodin in the lore, versus artifacts.
Metalcraft specifically, yeah.
Like, I appreciate this, actually. This is really nice. Come on, Mirrodin. I believe in you. You can do it this time.
Well, I probably have to lean towards Ethan on this one. Even though he doesn't have that removal for, well, not removal, but he doesn't have that counter spell to stop the Pure Steel Paladin from coming down, I feel like he still has a consistent enough clock. Even if he doesn't combo off, quote unquote.
I think part of it is going to be required that Milton is definitely going to need a little bit more than just to try to rely on Mox Opal. Like, he's going to have to get the Pure Steel Paladin out.
Yeah, even if he doesn't get it out naturally, even if he relies on the Opal, he's still gonna need lands. That was his main fall for round one. Turn one, he just played an Opal and passed. He didn't play any lands. He needs to draw those lands, and I'd chuck that up more to just bad opening hand than anything else.
He mulliganed twice. He scryed. He was really depending on that first draw giving him.
If I remember correctly, that scry was to the bottom.
Yeah.
So even that card wasn't a land, but he decided to keep it either way. I suppose Mox Opal and 3 Cheerios, it'll get you there.
I even had a Pure Steel Paladin in hand as well.
Mm-hmm. No, he probably did, because he played it turn 2, and the only thing he would have drawn in between those turns are lands.
I mean, basically, it came out that Milton ran into the situation that was bad for it, which is, I have 1 Cheerio left in hand. Cast, draw, cast, draw, cast, draw, cast, draw, cast, draw. Ran out.
Looks like they're both taking another mulligan. Always rough to see, but they are both playing these very linear decks that you need to know, they know what they need to have in their hands. It's just always a shame to see. And bet at this point Ethan was wishing he'd gone back to Jund, at least mulligan wise.
By the way, can we talk about how heavy it is? The number of people that showed up. So anybody listening at home right now, you are the ones who missed out.
I'd say we have a much higher concentration here than I've seen in a long time, especially since last week.
Had to cancel?
Yeah, we canceled because we didn't have enough people, myself included, but...
But no, it's really good. 17, I believe, showed up, and I hope it grows. I hope at some point we're exceeding 24 players.
And if I hadn't been casting, I'd be out there playing too. But I enjoy casting decently enough, so here I am. Enjoy watching the game. Although my new modern deck, I enjoy playing it so much. Good old Vanifar combo. Get Kiki out, get whatever else I need. Just casually win the game.
Getting Kiki with it, huh?
Definitely more of a mid-range strategy though than I was expecting, which it's good. It's nice. I play a little aggro, a little defensively, and then suddenly, I win.
I was playing against a couple of standard decks actually the other day, and I gotta say right now, standard's in a really good place. They got a lot of good stuff right now. Naturally, the most top tier of top tier when it comes to modern is obviously the shutout against standard. I mean, take blue-green infect against just about anything in standard, nothing's fast enough.
Well, I'd say if anything, if they get some blockers down, then that'll be okay. But you get that Blightsteel agent. They can't block it. They just have to remove it. But at the same time, standard has a higher consistency of just removal spells. So I joke about my friend about bringing standard decks to modern events, and while he doesn't do great with them, he does okay because he has that removal to be able to just keep it going.
Yeah, and like I said, it's in a good place. It's not bad. I played against a Golgari deck that was, the amount of removal they had. And and then played against a Simic deck, and just I couldn't get anything to stick. It was counter, counter, counter. Oh boy.
Yeah, especially since that new Mystic Snake style creature.
Oh yeah, that thing hurt so bad. I was like, oh no, it's Mystic Snake.
It looks like though Milton does get the land he needs on the field. Turn 1 with a Mox Opal.
Solid, very solid.
Ethan debating which land to play. Looks like he's gonna end up going shocking in a breeding pool.
And another Noble Hierarch. Noble Hierarch always a really interesting card in fact. It's a free +1/+1 anytime you swing, plus it's free mana.
Yeah, unless you cast your other pump spells, especially since, like I said, Infect's more mana intensive than Cheerios. So
I think I once played against Mr. Ethan. I literally just pushed every Noble Hierarch that hit the field. He actually kept a hand that had 1 land but 3 Noble Hierarchs, and was like, nope, push, push, push. He's like,
given how often I play pretty linear decks, pretty just straightforward combo, I don't run much removal main board, so I imagine I'd have a decently difficult time against Ethan. But in my Vanifar deck currently, I run a Malira sideboard. Just for him.
I feel like every modern player needs Infect Rush, because it is one of the fastest ways to win. You have to be able to deal with it. You can't deal with it, you are just. And we see the Pure Steel Paladin hitting the field turn 2.
And it is time. It looks like he's grabbing the storm counter.
Oh god, no. It's coming.
Especially since he's already got that Mox Opal on the field and still untapped. He has that mana for Grape Shot.
Yep. He
just needs to draw it. Oh, the equip and pass.
I mean, he has time, right?
Mm-hmm. He's definitely waiting to use his other. I assume that's not his only equipment in hand. He's waiting to use more. Looks like 3 cards left in hand. There's no way he doesn't have more. If anything, he might cast a SRAM, might cast another Pure Steel. And there comes down the Blighted Agent.
Leaving a mana open for the
Spell Pierce.
Yep. Or even Blossoming Defense.
Mm-hmm.
Case. I have to imagine that Milton sideboarded in a Path or something.
Yeah, definitely removal is good for either deck at this point, but Milton has the better color selection for it. Looks like he's immediately fetching that Windswept Teeth.
And gonna shock it in.
Oof.
Nope, it's mine.
Needing 3 mana here is a bit interesting.
They just, like I said, he may try to trick you up Ethan. Path
mana.
Path.
Casting another Pure Steel Paladin would be pretty good. Getting double draws for each time you cast a spell.
Oh, that would fix everything, to be honest. What does he use the blue for?
The blue? I kind of remember right now, but
There's another Pure Steel Paladin.
Yeah, like I was saying, that's why he kept that Okay, he looks like he has an Echoing Truth in hand. And a Echoing Truth bouncing back those artifacts. Well, one artifact he can. But that's going to get him a double draw.
Oh, yeah. Well, I'm going to assume that there was no Spell Pierce, because that would have been something
Yeah.
else.
Also, Retract, I feel, is another card he has. Paying 1 blue to be able to just bounce all of his spells back to hand. Pretty good. Looks like he's equipping, which generally signals the end of Milton's turns. Unless that's a Paradise. No, it's not a Paradise Mantle. You can't use it to tap for mana. Looks like we are nearing the end of this game.
Pretty interesting. A little damage to get in there. Just be like, no you.
Well, I think all of the damage dealt this game is just based on, or has just been shocking and fetching.
No, Milton actually struck him. Punched him right in the face.
Oh.
It's just 2 damage. Nope. You're taking a little bit. Damn it.
Hey, if that gets that grape shot requirement down a little bit.
So I see a Serum Visions, I think, in Milton's hand. That's going to be extremely important because that's going to set up everything. So
Although it does look like Ethan's trying to win this turn with a Might of Old Crocia, giving +4/+4. And another one, +8/+8. If he swings at this point,
that's a 10-10. That's
Milton's
a 10-10
dead.
unblockable.
Yeah, that's a Retract and a Serum Visions. Well, and Ethan takes the match.
Yep.
Like I said, I feel like Ethan's favored there just because Milton's hand, if he doesn't draw correctly, can't do anything. Whereas Ethan, he gets one creature down. If he doesn't draw his pump spells, okay, I'll just swing in for one each turn.
Yeah, he was definitely trying to get something going. Like, if he could have got one more Cheerio from the draw, it would have literally been like pay one, draw, or play one, draw two, play one, draw two, play. Or if he could have got a Mox Opal, right? Just play with another one, tap, and then going.
Paradise Mantle as well. Just trying to get that extra mana. He had a Retract in hand. He only needed 1 blue mana. But unfortunately, he didn't have it. Retract in that case would have been much better than the Echoing Truth, but you do with what you have. And that'll be it for round 2, though.
Silence is such a hard spell to actually utilize because it has to resolve to stop any more casting. But you can respond to it, and it doesn't stop anything that was cast before it was cast. So it needs to fully resolve.
Well, it does shut down sorcery speed threats, which all of those artifacts are.
One of my favorite strategies I ever implemented was Icecrown Scepter Silence. You ever played that combo?
I have not, but I can see how it would go.
Yeah, then you just basically anything you want. You one of my favorites is to put Teferi out. Now your opponent's playing at sorcery speed, so beginning of their turn, silence, will not be playing Magic tonight. Yeah, so they're gonna wrap it up. A little bit longer than I thought it was gonna be, but 2-0.
Like I said, most of that time spent mulligan, mulligan and sideboard. They both know their deck really well. Not much you can do.
Two very good players coming at it here. We're going to cut to commercial now, but we will be back with you for round 3 of the Nexus Esports Friday Night Magic Modern event.
See you then. And we are back after a little bit of a delay, but we are moving on to round
Three.
round 3.
Here at the Nexus Esports Friday Night Magic Modern event, we have Sam M and Logan B. Sam is playing a blue-red Arclight Phoenix deck. This deck originally saw play in Modern, and it was originally saw play in Standard, and it was quickly realized how powerful the deck could be with certain staples from Modern and certain cantrips. The deck focuses around trying to dump a card called Arclight Phoenix, which I will be pulling up, into the graveyard and trying to reanimate through its reanimation mechanic.
And the deck's been extremely fast, extremely consistent, and extremely popular, being the most played deck currently in the format.
Yeah, and like I said, when they converted it to Modern, it just gave it so many different ways to get this out. Serum Visions,
Gut Shot, Faithful Fluting.
Just so many good ways to just like, nope, we're doing this. I've actually watched somebody dump 4 Arclight Phoenixes onto the field. It's like, yeah, that.
Looks like Sam's leading up with a straight up island. Interesting.
Now on the other side here,
But
Logan B.
There's a Serum.
Logan B has the Amulet Titan deck. It relies on a card known as Amulet of Vigor, which has a effect that says whenever a permanent you control would enter play tapped, untap it. Not a replacement effect, which is very important. Trigger, which means that we don't see the turn 1 amulet coming out, which means that if the land would come into play untapped and he had multiple amulets, he can actually tap it multiple times.
Well, if the land would come into play tapped, then he can then there's a trigger that goes on the stack which untaps the land. If he has multiple amulets, then he plays a tapped land. It'll untap due to one trigger. You can tap it and then untap it again.
By that there's the turn 1.
Well, turn 2. He still needs to play a land. But he did play that Sakura Tribe Scout turn 1, which I'd say is the correct play there because you need to not have Summoning Sickness. Generally, this deck will want to see an Azusa, but Sakura Tribe Scout, it's still a good choice.
Anyway, ultimately, what the Amulet Titan's looking for is Primeval Titan. Getting it out, getting it easy, getting it out early, and then going into letting it fetch the lands that give it double strike, increased power, haste, swing, more power, and you're basically coming at you with a 10-6 double strike, trample, haste.
And the way it does this is through the utilization of the bounce lands, which everyone I've talked to in either Commander, Modern, they don't like the lands, but this is the one deck they really shine in. And by playing those bounce lands, they tap for 2 mana each, but the drawback of it is you have to return a land on the battlefield to your hand. So it's just strictly value, though, if you're being able to play the land, have it enter untapped, and return another land to your hand, which this deck wants to have multiple land drops. When you get those extra land drops, you're just netting mana each time.
Yeah, when I first actually looked at the bounce lands, I misread them, and I thought it said return a basic land. I was like, well, if I don't play any land but this, it's not a basic. It's like, no, it just says land.
Yeah, so you'd have to bounce it.
Very embarrassing turn 1, by the way.
Well, although it does look like he has a Trinket Mage on the field, which Trinket Mage is something newer to Amulet Titan decks. It's just an extra fetch for that amulet. So looks like Logan is going to be getting 2 amulets on the field this turn.
Actually, no, he used up all his mana, unfortunately.
Well, not this turn, but he has 1 in hand. And moving on to Sam's turn 2, he's got quite a number of cards in the graveyard, including an Arclight Phoenix. Although it does look like he's running a little bit low on lands, with just the one island, not forest, with the 1 island in play. He's gonna have to try and find a land here. And there's one we see on the top of his deck now, after the scry, but he's not gonna be able to recur that. Not going to be able to recur that Phoenix, which against a deck like Amulet Titan, you've got to be playing cards fast, try to win, because if you let them sit, they'll just win the game.
Yeah, Sam's definitely he kept the 1 mana hand. I'm not sure why. Probably because he had a couple serum visions. He's like, you know what? I'll just draw it.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, he did not.
And of the few times I've tested the deck, generally one-land hands are okay because you have so many draw cards. You have Mana Morphos in your deck. You've got mana neutral spells, Gut Shot. It's just as long as you can get that extra mana, you'll do fine. But in this case, it looks like it's coming to bite Sam in the butt, where he just doesn't have those lands. And there comes down the first bounce land. And like I was saying, Logan's using that untap trigger to add 2 to his mana pool. And this is where the deck just starts going off.
I'm not sure if he said, you know, I'm just going to tap it twice.
He did.
Okay.
Because that lets him play the prime time. Oh, and Sam just scoops up right there. Not much you can do on one land if you're Sam there.
I mean, it's basically going to go get the lands that give it the power and the haste. And, yep, swinging, now giving it the rest, the double strike. Sam doesn't have anything to block, doesn't have anything to counter.
And I think since Sam was at, since Logan had 2 mana and up, and Sam had 18 life, he could have killed him that turn.
Oh, yeah, definitely. That would have been a 10-6
Mm-hmm.
double strike.
And, well, plus the double strike land gives it +2/+0. So giving it the +2 would make it an 8/8, an 8/6.
And then the haste land gives it +2/+0, or is it different?
I think it's either the haste land or the double strike land. Either way,
Something gives it another +2/+0 and becomes a 10-6.
Either way, one of the lands you search for is a Vesuva. You can tap that, or you can tap it twice by copying one of the other bounce lands you're searching out. You're gonna get enough mana for it. Moving on to sideboard, I don't know what Sam's gonna bring in against Logan, because there's not many cards that pose that deck. Only one I can think of is Damping Sphere, but if you're playing Phoenix, you don't want to bring in Damping Sphere.
Oh, that would be bad. Artifact Hate, maybe?
That
Smash
very
to
well.
Smithereens?
Well, I don't think they run Smash to Smithereens. I think their artifact hate of choice is either No, not Nature's Claim. Is probably Ancient Grudge, because if they can throw it. No, wait, they can't throw it into the yard because they don't have green.
Well, Metamorphose would give it to him if they really wanted it.
Abrade, that's the one. Abrade is probably their artifact hate of choice. I just have to think back to all the lists I've seen.
I still like Smash to Smithereens because it's Lightning Bolt and Shatter in one card.
Mm-hmm. I think the only deck, though, that the only tier deck that, or not tier, the main meta list, the only one I've seen that runs it is Mono Red Burn.
I've seen it in Goblins, which is...
Oh, right. Yeah, I've seen it a couple times in Goblins.
In the sideboard, it's like, oh, you want to play Ensnaring Bridge, huh? More.
Especially with 8-whack or turn 2 goblins, as I've heard it called. You want to try and get that extra damage in. And since you're using mana to do that, you want to go ahead and get in some damage, get some chip in, just so you can swing in for lethal that next turn. So Sam will be on the play. They're drawing their opening hands now, and we'll see if this game is another one that they need to mulligan again. Looks like Logan is mulliganing, but I think Sam's keeping.
I mean, I definitely see what looks like a Steambolts in his opening hand, and I thought I saw an island, so that's 2 land.
Yeah, and I think I saw a Bolt, which that'll kill the Sakura Tribe Scout or the Azusa if it comes down.
Sometimes you just gotta deal with these things. Lands are put on the battlefield at sorcery speed, right?
They are put onto the battlefield sorcery speed, but unless there's an ETB trigger, which if he plays an Azusa and there has to be something that passes priority, like a trigger. Like the bounce lands, there is the bounce trigger. So in response to, say, him playing a bounce land and bouncing, he can bolt the Azusa. But unless he does that, the Azusa, you'll be able to get 2 regular land drops in before priority is passed. And you were right about that. That is a Steam Vents fetched out, putting Sam 217. Which...
ultimately, Logan's either going to swing for 20 or not.
Mm-hmm.
I'd say that like the chances of Logan just not killing him in totality in one turn is it's just not likely.
Well, 16 is another number that they could, or Amulet Titan can kill at, because it doesn't work if, say, Logan doesn't have the. If Logan can't get the 20 damage, he'll settle for 16. Because with only one activation of the. What is it? With only one activation of. I can't remember what it's called. The land that gives it double strike, or the land that pumps, it'll be an 8/6 double strike, dealing 16 damage. And that's not to mention any blockers like this thing in the ice that Sam has just played.
Yeah, there's a lot's going on right now and a little bit out of turn to be honest. Sam cracked a fetch land, went fetched an island, and played a thing in the ice. Like it's not 100% like wrong, but he really should have put the land down first. And this is just etiquette. Like both players are experienced, both players know what's happening, but you do need to be careful about these kinds of plays because you can get called out for that. And
Yes, but at the same time, this is a relaxed event. It's not competitive REL, and as long as Sam declared what card he was fetching before he played the creature, and even if he didn't, as long as, because he has the blue source already on the field, as long as the opponent knows what he's doing and he communicates well, I'd say it's fine. It just speeds up turns.
yeah, I mean, like you said, we're a friendly bunch here. Actually, one of the players that we saw tonight, Roland, I met him after round two, and he's actually really happy about how friendly everybody is because he goes to other events for, let's just say, other. And he actually, that's one of his peeves is like some of the players are extremely unfriendly, rushing him, demanding that like he not take his time and not think critically. Here it's like, no man, take your time. We got 50 minutes.
Well, there's also a little bit of other incentive behind that. If they go to time and you win game one, well, yeah, take your time. But most of the people here, yeah, they're just here to play the game, have fun.
Even Ethan. Ethan's not a bad guy. I swear.
Well, I'm kidding. He's a great guy. Yeah, it does look like Logan's got that amulet on the field. He doesn't play any bounce lands, but getting those gemstone caverns, that's just free mana. Fortunately, he does have to sack one, lowering his mana a little bit, but that's fine. I don't think Logan's got any pressure put on him, especially since Sam has 2 spells to be able to bounce the thing in the ice, which he's going to be able to get at any point this game.
Yeah, and to be honest, you've really got to be a little bit scared of that because you're like, haha, here's my Titan, what will you do? And you're like,
right, instant speed, cast 2 spells, bounce your thing.
I actually recently was looking at an idea for a deck. Oh god, there's Path. Oh god, it's Path.
Path sideboard on Amulet Titan. That's pretty good.
Like it both slows Sam down a little bit, right? It removes the potential stop, but at the same time, it also gives Sam mana because Sam hasn't cast anything. Like it's coming up on Sam's turn, so Sam could easily have 5 mana out next.
Yes, but unfortunately for Sam, he doesn't have any phoenixes in the graveyard, where you really want to have those phoenixes in the graveyard if you have that much mana, because then, okay, cantrip, swing in for 3, 6, 9, 12.
I'd laugh if he just hard cast it.
Yeah. That definitely would be interesting. I saw a red card in his hand, not sure what it was, but... Another thing in the ice.
Stop me if you can. No, a friend of mine, we were theory crafting a bit of an idea around a Leviathan deck, basically. Or horror deck, I think. And a black-blue deck that revolves around Thing in the Ice, Swimming Aberration, and Nemesis of Reason.
Okay.
With like black-blue mill. But the actual kill is just, I have big creatures and I bounce all yours back.
Like I was saying, he does run the Abrade post sideboard to kill that amulet, which will definitely slow down Logan quite a bit.
Ooh, Surgical Extraction too.
Oh, yeah. Surgical on that amulet'll.
$40 card right there.
I mean, yeah, but it pretty much ensures that Logan can't can't go off in a single turn. He needs to take it slow, try and take his time, get those lands down, and then go off. Which, against a Phoenix deck, you don't have that kind of time.
Yeah, and don't get me wrong, don't call me a quitter for this, but I'd be scooping right now. It's like, you know what, game 3?
I mean, that's kind of what Sam did. Sam did game 1. He saw that he had the kill on board. He saw that he couldn't really come back, even if he didn't have enough damage to completely kill him. He saw that there was no way he was going to do it just on land, so he scooped.
I mean, plus he can. Like, he can get out the 20. It's extremely doable. But no, I'm sorry, I do not see how you're coming back from this.
Especially with that
Amulet is so critical to what you're trying to do.
Especially since that thing in the ice right there only got 2 counters left. 2 spells? That's easy for Sam here. Use a gut shot, or it looks like he does have a bolt and he has a Phoenix in hand. So I imagine he wants to discard that Phoenix, but like you said, if he needs to hardcast it, that's no trivial matter.
Oh, Ancient Stirrings, gonna go get a bounce land. Ancient Stirrings is a fairly good card. Always making waves. Look at the top 5 cards of your library, put a colorless card from among them into your hand.
People have been calling for it to be banned, but I completely disagree.
It's not that powerful. Like,
Not at all.
Don't get me wrong. It has its extreme uses, right?
Yeah.
But, like, honestly, if the Void wasn't a thing, it wouldn't even be.
Well, it's not so much a matter of Devoid, it's...
The Void just gave it too many options.
Yeah, but Tron, being able to get Karn, being able to get Tron lands. Tron's just a deck that people use as its reasoning. Well, and KCI, but they banned a different card out of KCI. Although, I'll be honest, I don't think they should have banned KCI out of that deck.
Right?
I think Mirror Retriever or Scrap Trawler were the 2 cards to ban.
I've been a little bit sad about the Scrap Trawlers because I just bought a playset to try to experiment with. But yeah, like KCI, nobody's really ever broke the card, and then finally somebody breaks it. Oh, let's ban it. No.
Well, it wasn't that they ban KCI itself. KCI did help because it was a mana ability, but it was the fact that Scrap Trawler and Mirror Retriever, yeah, you could just keep going off and off and off. But it looks like Sam does end up flipping that Awakened Horror. Not much Logan can do at this point. At this point, I would just coop. Coalition Relic coming down from Logan.
This one basically stores a mana charge, right?
Mm-hmm.
So basically right now, Logan is just, let me try to mana ramp.
But there's not really that much point.
I mean, to be fair, well, actually no, because that's a 7/8.
Oh, that's a spicy card in Sam's hand. That's a Magus of the Moon. And there's a Crumble to Dust. Destroy target or exile target land. Search that person's library for all lands of the same name, or non-basic lands. So you can't just name Forest. But in this kind of a deck, against this deck, Valakut, Tron, even, it's just a ridiculous. And it may be 4 mana, but you're willing to do that to remove a specific kind of land from their deck.
Yeah, I mean, and depending on what you're using, I can imagine that in Scape Shift. No, Valakut. Please, no. No, Valakut.
Yeah.
This isn't happening anymore.
You can't do anything other than just start swinging with prime times. Which is never a bad strategy.
Yeah. But, you know, creatures, easily countered.
Yeah. You can stop creatures.
Lands
Can't stop
a little
lands.
harder. No, I don't actually remember that card. That's basically Stone Rain, except exile and extract. I like it. I never actually saw it. I didn't get to play during Battle.
Me neither. That was during my little break-in time while playing the game. But it was definitely a good time. Maybe not so in Modern, where the Eldrazi Winter came in. But
Okay.
Hmm. What?
Yeah, this isn't gonna work the way you think he thinks it will.
Well, those lanes are gonna come in tapped. And
I think he was like, let me get a bounce land and the thing. Oh, wait, I can't do that. Because normally it'd be untap. Oh, look, tap it to activate to tap to do the thing.
so he's grabbing a Bajuka Bog and a Colony Garden, which is good. Colony Garden gives him a blocker, at the very least. And I don't think the Horror has Trample. Or
Doesn't have trample, no.
I do not believe so. So, as long as he can chump block that thing, he's in a decent shape.
I just want to point out to everyone that my co-host here just said to chump block with a Primeval Titan. You don't
No,
hear
no,
that
no,
very
no.
often.
The token he got, the 0-1 from...
Oh, okay.
And that's the spicy little card I was thinking, or I saw in Sam's hand.
What is that?
That is a Magus of the Moon. Essentially, a blood moon on a creature. I run it in Vanifar, and ooh, it's not great, but when it is,
Ooh, it's nice. I like it. I still thought it was kind of funny that, like, for a second I thought you were like, nah, he can block the 7/8 with the 6/6.
I mean, yeah, that's just not a great play, but that Magus on the Moon's going to be backbreaking for Logan, especially since now he has, what, 1 green?
Yep.
Well, 2 green now. But by swinging with the prime time,
And
he's opened himself up.
And he can't go get the lands that give him all the special abilities.
Nope.
They just lost them all.
I suppose you could just hope that he chump blocks with the Magus, but that's not going to happen. Yeah, if I'm Logan here, I need those forests, just so I can get that
now
little bit of extra.
He's gonna basically try to put enough stuff in Sam's way that Sam doesn't want to swing. And yeah, so Sam's now got to come together with a way to get through the creature wall. That's an Arclight Phoenix. That is a way to get through the creature wall.
Well, not get through it, just fly right over.
True.
3 damage a turn. I think Logan's clock's, though, faster. As long as he keeps drawing creatures to block with.
Yes and no. Prime time is still a 6/6. He leaves the 7/8 open. Kill it.
Mm-hmm. And he full swings here. Like I was saying, he just throws the Horror under the bus. Or not the Horror. He throws the Scout under the bus, blocking the Horror, and takes the 5. Rough, but he does what needs to.
I mean, it's going to come down to things. Oh, wouldn't it be hilarious if he played a Giant Growth? That'd be game. Like, no!
Yeah, that would be a card that I definitely wouldn't expect. There's a Teleria West coming down.
This is what you would call a
Oh. Yeah, he can't use the Teleria West.
yeah.
Well, no, he can. Because he's not
It's not on the field.
well, yeah, since it's not on the field, it's just a card. It's not a land. Well, it's a land, but not a land.
The ability that it
Yeah.
goes. Let me pull it up.
As long as he can still cycle it from his hand, or not cycle. Yeah, as long as he can transmute it from his hand, he can find that 0 mana, tutor Summoner's Pact. You can just get another creature to try and chump block. Question is, what do you get here?
The prime time.
But does he have the green mana in order? He does have the green mana, so that would be good enough to be able to block.
Where did he get the 2 blue?
That's a good point. Be right back. on that. I'll go check up.
All right, so that's what it was. The Coalition Relic is where you got the 2. Fantastic. We are now aware.
But it does look like we are moving on to game 3.
He just couldn't find an answer.
Which is weird, because I feel like if he would have gotten a primetime, cast it, then he could have thrown one of them under the bus to block the 7-8, killed the Magus of the Moon with the other one, and unless Sam drew direct damage, he'd still be swinging with a primetime next turn.
I thought Sam still had a lightning bolt in his hand.
Maybe he did. I think he used it on that one turn when he swung with... No, you're right. He didn't.
Would have been game. Maybe
Yep.
just like, hey, dude, you know what? I have a bolt. Are you going to be able to block 3 creatures?
Well, either way, moving on to game 3. Now that Logan knows a little bit more of what Sam's going for, I feel like this will be a much different game.
Definitely. Sam's got the advantage. Definitely coming into game 2, the sideboard was super solid for Sam. Like, oh, look, here's my way to deal with your artifact. Here's my way to deal with the rest of your artifacts. And honestly, Amulet just does not work without, Amulet.
Namesake card for the deck. Kind of important.
Yep. My Thopter deck doesn't work without Thopter Foundry. But the other, of course, I don't know how effective it's going to be. Magus of the Moon, I think, was a more effective land solution than Crumble to Dust. But Crumble to Dust is another card to worry about. Like, I have the land that does the thing. You're just like, no, you don't. And you never will again.
It's definitely, I'd say, 2 different purposes. Whereas Crumble to Dust gets rid of those critical lands, Magus stops him from doing anything. And that's why it takes up 2 different sideboard spots. But that Crumble to Dust is for specific land decks. Magus of the Moon, you run it against a Valakut, it gets bolted. You run Crumble to Dust, what do? They can't counter it, they can't. You kind of just sit there and be like, well, guess I just gotta hit you with prime times.
I think that the play here might, because Sam did sideboard.
Mm-hmm.
He might have taken out the Crumble to Dust, like, you know what? It was fun, but I technically didn't do a lot. I hit a land, I got rid of some other lands, that was cool. But to be honest, all I really did was remove a land from the.
Well, at the same time, though, we didn't see any of those critical lands, like the Haste Enabler, the Double Strike Enabler. If you could get rid of those, although it is sorcery speed, if you could get rid of those, it's stopping a lot of consistency from Logan.
Dark like Phoenix from Quicken.
I do not believe so.
Oh, that'd be so much fun, wouldn't it?
It would be an interesting card to see.
Because, on the stack, board untaps. Throw it up.
Well, it looks like Sam is mulliganing, or he's still shuffling. But overall, we're just going to have to see how it goes going into game 3. Okay, it looks like they both drew 7, so this is just the beginning of the... Let's see if they decide to mulligan or keep. Looks like they're both keeping. Logan's leaving off with a Bajuka Bog. Interesting. Generally, I would try and hold that up. But given that he's got bounce lands, I wouldn't say that's too big of a problem.
That's Chalaria Whisk and go get Internet Explosives. That's pretty good.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, bouncing that Bajuka Bog, which is what you want to see from Logan. 2 mana there. Ooh, Ancient Stirrings, floating a blue. Although, generally when I see the Amulet players float a blue, they're just letting it go away. Good thing Mana Burn's not a thing anymore.
Yeah, and there's a group of players I ran into not too long. They were all about playing Legacy, and they were all about Mindslaver. I was like, why do you guys like Mindslaver so expensive and recurring? It takes so much. What are you guys on about? Oh, you just tap down all the lands and mana burn them together, and you're like, that got removed from the ruling a long time ago. Well, it should be a ruling still. What do you want? You're playing my game.
It looks like, though, Logan did grab a Teleria West. So, that solves one thing. He's got another amulet.
That's very combo.
Bajuka Bog getting rid of there. Looks like Logan's just going to take time, set up. And
why did he play another land?
That was his first land. That was his first land for the turn. Yes, I do believe Sam missed a land drop.
This turn 3.
Yes. Because at some point, Sam thought scoured, and he had to untap. You don't see those lands in the graveyard because of the Thought Scour, because Bajuka Bog. Looks like he doesn't also run regular Blood Moons. A good card, not when you don't have any lands. Steam Vent's down from Sam. Now he's got that choice of, do I play the Thing in the Ice in my hand, or do I Manamorphose and try and draw a Phoenix to discard to Faithless Loot?
Man.
Why not?
Oh, no, you're right.
He would have to, or he would float 1 extra mana and then cast whatever spell he had. Whatever 1-drop spell.
That's my...
Nah. Oh, there's the Abrade. That makes more sense. Being able to abrade those amulets stops quite a bit.
Doesn't have the surgical this time.
And he decides to just go ahead and play the Thing in the Ice.
I don't know. I feel like the setup's too good here. See a bounce land, untaps twice, tap again. Happen.
Oh, yeah, the Azusa, that's gonna do it. We know he's got the Teleria, which means he can find a Summoner's Pact, which means he can find a Titan. And given that he has 2 extra land drops, 2 amulets on the field, let's see, that's enough. Oh, but he doesn't play a bounce land there. Floating a green. Tapping for a green, so he's got 2 green, and he plays the Teleria West.
Coalition? Click. I guess he just didn't have the combo pieces in hand.
Hmm.
I mean, he's set up, but might cost him a little bit.
Yeah,
Metamorphose?
especially because Sam's gonna be able to flip that Delver this turn. Or not Delver, flip that Thing in the Ice. Manamorphose, that's what you want to see. I think I see a Bolt, which Bolt can target that Azusa. I know he's got that
Faithless
Looting, so he's
got it. He may take the risk.
he can
Because
flip
I know he probably said, wait, Abrade is blue or red? Red, right?
red, yes.
I hope he said red. Really hope he said red. Because if he did,
I do believe that's an opt. So, scry draw. He drew a land, which is good because it gives him an extra mana. So, he took that risk and it paid off. If he has a red floating, then he plays this, he can still abrade, and he can not flip Delver, sorry. That's
I mean, he also just throw. Well, he could have braid. He could throw a bolt because he has a bolt in hand. He just throw it at Logan's face and be like, "And flip bounce, token's gone. Got to recast.
Take 10."
But I think the safe play here is to.
Ooh, he passes.
I think what he wants to do is maybe hold off, and if he sees the Titan come out, just be like, no.
Yeah, bolt the Azusa, flip, bounce, and that'll be enough. Yep, Logan's got that Summoner's Pact. He's gonna be casting a Titan this turn. And Sam's been rewarded. Although, bouncing the prime time is not the best solution because if he bounces it, he still gets the ETB trigger. So he'll get 2 lands. Next turn, he casts it. He gets 2 more lands. And chances are, if that thing is tapped, or if the horror is tapped, he's gonna be able to kill him. The question is just whether or not Sam sees this. It also is dependent on what lands Logan grabs. But the Summoner's Pact, he has to pay for that. I forgot about that. And here comes the bolt. Flipping the thing in the ice.
Cast trigger first.
Cast trigger, yeah.
It actually means Azusa actually has to go back.
I didn't think about that.
Bolt's left is 3 damage to the face. Path coming out to stop the and what is it called when it flips?
Oh, Awakened Horror.
Awakened Horror. He passed the Awakened Horror. Here comes another land. Yep, we see the island because that would be the only option. So the real question is, Sam, what do you?
I mean, from what we've seen in Sam's hand, it's pretty obvious. He just drops a Blood Moon.
Oh, does he have a source of green?
Why?
Because if he doesn't have a source of green, it's not basic.
Yeah, no, that's
game.
Yeah. Oh. Right.
I think he's trying to draw it. Is he trying to draw it? Does he get it? I don't think he gets it.
No, if Sam drops the no, he has a Blood Moon in hand.
On Sam.
Discarding to Faithless Looting?
I want to see the genius play.
Oh. It's gonna be... It's just whether or not Sam sees it. Land, shocking it in.
Something just like Sam just... I think he realizes
Here it comes.
I think he... Yep.
There's the Blood Moon.
Oh, that is 4-dimensional chess right there, baby. Oh, man, when the pact gets you.
That's definitely playing at another level. I was wondering why he didn't play that pact or the Blood Moon earlier. Turns out he didn't need to.
I think my brain just developed a new neuron. That's pretty good. I liked it. I love that next level play right there.
Echoing Truth to get rid of the amulets.
Oh man, exciting, very exciting game, and a fantastic finish for Sam right there. He's gonna. You
can't ask for better.
He's gonna go on to round 4 undefeated. I believe I'm gonna go ahead and assume that he's on round 3 as well.
It just depends.
Might actually end up seeing them both because I think we have to put the 2 top as our final thing. So,
well, then that'll be a good matchup with Sam running so much removal and Ethan running not very much. It'll be interesting to see how that game goes. But that'll do it for round 3. Sam taking it 3-2.
Also, those
Magus.
Magus of the Moons and Blood Moons are going to work fantastically against Inkmoth Nexus.
It really is. I just didn't expect that.
Oh boy. It just kind of set something off, right? When you just like realized, God.
Direct currents in the sideboard too. I like this sideboard from Sam.
Definitely. I feel like we definitely missed out not seeing him last week. All right. Well, we're going to move to commercials now, but look forward to the 4th and final round coming up at Nexus Esports Friday Night Magic Modern Event. We are your casters, Edward T.
And Lane Mays. We'll see you in round 4. And we are back with round 4, Magic Modern at Nexus Esports.
Coming at you now, Andrew Anderson, who has been a caster on this show, with, once again, our favorite from the last round, Sam. Andrew's playing a Death Shadow deck, always a very interesting modern deck, versus Sam. How do you, I have my opinion, how do you think this is going to go?
I think it's whoever gets going first. If Andrew gets out on Death Shadow and gets low enough life, then that Death Shadow could easily run away with it. But if Sam gets down a Phoenix and starts swinging, poking away, who knows?
I remember it, kind of, but I'm going to go ahead and pull up a Death Shadow. You remind us how the Death Shadow deck works.
So, Death Shadow, they run as many fetches and shocks as possible to be able to play Death Shadow, which it's a 13/13 for 1 mana, and it gets -X, where X is your life total. So you want to get below 13 life so that your Death Shadow doesn't die to state-based actions. Now, that could work in Sam's favor because Sam's playing aggro. He's trying to whittle down Andrew's life either way. But Andrew knows the deck pretty well. Who knows?
Sam's deck isn't actually a burn deck, but it does have a lot of direct damage. So if the stronger Andrew gets, the closer he gets to just being a bolt away from death. So this is the razor's edge, the double-edged sword, if you will.
And I feel like Andrew knows what Sam's on. Sam knows what Andrew's on. If Andrew tries and plays it safe, he doesn't shock and fetch all the time, then Sam's going to have to pull that trigger at some point. And plus, Death Shadow has a bunch of removal. It runs Fatal Pushes. It runs Bolts. It runs Dismembers. Anything Sam plays would just die to his removal, leaving Andrew with a big-ass Death Shadow.
So, coming out immediately, Sam's on the play.
Terramander.
Shock the land in?
Yes, I do. Or no. That is a Spirebluff Canal, one of the fast lands from the Kaladesh block.
Thank you.
So, Terramander there, it's pretty much a Gurmag Angler with flying. And if you want to go ahead and pull that card up.
Do it again.
Terramander, PT. And the reason it is like a Death Shadow is because it's a 1 mana 1/1, but it has Adapt for 8 mana, and then that Adapt costs less for each instant and sorcery. So essentially, he's playing a 2 mana 5/5 if he has enough instants and sorceries. But you also don't need to pay that 2 mana at once. You can pay it over time.
Definitely.
Andrew going for a fetch shock, getting him ever so closer to the Death Shadow. Now, something that Death Shadow players love doing is thought seizing. Oh, wait, well, we've got an Inquisition here. Grabbing a Thought Scour, because he's got 2 copies, and that's the only thing he can grab from his graveyard. And just from the looks here, Andrew needs removal, or else he's just going to die to this Grackling Drake and Terramander. But it's Death Shadow. They've got plenty of removal.
And one thing to think about is, while it's good to hit the hand with the hand hate, that's putting sorceries and instants in the graveyard, which get him ever closer to that 5/5 flyer.
Well, for Thought Scour at least, it's better to have Thought Scour in the graveyard, like to discard Thought Scour, than to have them actually cast it, because that's 3 more cards, which any one of those could be a instant or sorcery, plus the card you draw. Looks like Andrew's cycled a Street Wraith, and we're getting into it. He's at that life total where he can cast a Death Shadow. Well, not this turn, but yeah, shocked in. That's Death Shadow territory. He's got a 2/2. Now, looking in, I think Andrew's just going to try and bolt the Terramander and play a Death Shadow. If not, there are plenty of other options he could go.
So it plays like a Grixis control.
Kind of. It's very tempo, kind of aggro. It's all over the place. I've seen people classify it as mid-range. I've seen people classify it as control. I've seen someone even classify it as quote-unquote super duper aggro. His words, not mine. But like I was saying, there comes the Death Shadow.
So a couple things happening there. The quick thought scour, dumping more cards to the graveyard, and an opt.
Looks like he's got 2 fetches in the graveyard. I can't see the rest of his graveyard, but that's just getting him ever so closer to activating that Pteramander. I see a bolt in Sam's hand, which, oof, you do not want to see that if you're Andrew.
There's the Arc-like Phoenix in the graveyard.
Yeah, 2 more spells, and that's swinging him for 3.
I mean, he had a Manamorph. This would be over, but I don't know if he.
Well, him swinging right there just says that, yeah, I don't have what I need, so I'm just gonna go ahead and play another Pteramander, threaten the adapt. And I'd say that's a pretty good spot for him to be in. Death Shadow being a 3/3 right now means that it doesn't take much for Andrew just to be able to grow it past bolt range, which is scary for Sam.
Imagine how powerful the Arc-like Phoenix Dual deck would be if you still had Gix Probe.
Taxium Probe. That's a card I'm glad it was not around, especially because of all the different decks like that would run it. I know Death Shadow used to run it.
That's a Thoughtseize.
Yeah, I think Sam's best play here is to, in response, try and bolt the...
I would just do it, Sam. Do it. Bolt him in the face.
Not in the face, no, you kill the Death Shadow.
You won't kill it now.
Yeah, well.
Oh.
Because you're doing it in response.
I don't think he can,
And he cycles a Street Wraith in response. That'll do it.
Yeah, I think I would have hit him in the face. Because that would have brought him down to 5.
Growing the Death Shadow even more.
True, but it doesn't have trample, right?
No, but they do run, what is it?
Fatal Push?
Not Fatal Push.
Do it right now.
I mean, Fatal Push. He does run Fatal Push. But it runs...
Does he have the kill spell?
It runs Timber Battle Rage, which gives it both Double Strike and Trample. Looks like Sam doesn't block there.
He is really close to just being able to buff both of those creatures.
Swing 10, that's lethal.
And if he gets any source of damage right now...
Looks like he's sitting thinking what he can do. He's counting up his instant and sorceries.
I mean, he has, what, 2, 3 Thought Scours in there? A Lightning Bolt. An Opt.
Yep, looks like he does have enough.
And a Manamorphose. That's at least 6.
Well, he can pump both, forcing Andrew to have removal.
Let me just get a normal dice. There we go. Sane moves.
But yeah, that's lethal on board. Yep. And Andrew scoops it up.
What was he trying to get?
I think he was trying to get some kind of removal spell.
Well, he just paid the only mana he had open for the Thought. Is there a 0 mana card that he could have relied on?
I do not believe so. Looks like Andrew's got his little cheat sheet for what to sideboard against what deck.
What? That's shenanigans.
But it's completely legal, even in a competitive standpoint.
I mean, I'll be honest. I can already tell you what it should be. Surgical extraction.
Surgicals, definitely, especially because
Burn yourself and get rid of something. Hit the arc light. Hit anything. That bolt that you just took, rid of it.
I definitely do think though that Sam's in the better place after post sideboard against Andrew.
If you go to adapt your Terramancer, and he surgical extracts and removes 3 cards from your graveyard.
The cost has already been paid there.
Okay, so it's not when it resolves, it's when it's
because you can't make a cost unpayable in response to someone paying a cost. Once the cost is paid, it's paid. You can't really do anything about it.
There was a ruling I saw recently about something to do with costs and oh no, I'm sorry, it's not the cost. It's the resolution of Tezzeret, Agent of Bolus. Resolution of his ult, the -4, they take X, you gain X for X is twice the number of X. That takes into account the artifact as it is resolved, not as it is triggered. So if you can suddenly cheat in the artifacts, all at instant speed for 0 mana somehow.
Yeah, that'd be lethal. Oh yeah, it'd be a considerable amount, but that would kill. Yeah, it would take into account those. Any kind of X spell takes into account X on resolution. But while on the stack, X is equal to however much you pay. If it has X in its converted mana cost, but if it's say, I don't know, X where X is the number of islands you control, then it's gonna get that X after the spell resolves. So if they bounce 4 islands, I don't know how they would do that, but it would wait and then resolve that.
What do you think Sam's sideboarding in?
Sam,
I think he's also getting
definitely.
Because what does Death Shadow deck do if the Death Shadows are gone?
They have Gourmet Anglers.
Okay, that's a good backup.
And there's one card called Claim to Fame. It's one of those dual cards where Claim, it was one of the ones from it was Amonkhet, where the first part of it, Claim, lets you just pay 1 mana, return target creature with power 2 or CMC 2 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield. You just get back a Death Shadow. Now I saw that a lot of them were running them. I don't know if they still run them. So
well, surgical extraction would take care of that.
Yeah, definitely. But also Gourmet Angler, where it limits the amount of cards they can possibly delve. Alright, moving on to Game 2. Finals here at Nexus Esports.
Quick shock.
We don't even see a Thoughtseize coming down from Andrew. Sam's got a fetch on the board, feeling pretty safe to fetch whenever he needs to. Ooh, no land from Andrew. That's gotta feel bad.
Was quick.
Well, if you only got 1 land and no spells that cost 1 mana, you can't do anything.
This is gonna be a bit of a slow game for Andrew. I don't think he's gonna have a good start here. It's salvageable. I mean, he damn near got into winning position in 2 turns last game.
Mm-hmm.
But the more time you give Sam to set up, I think the further you are from victory. Every day we stray further and further from the Emperor's Light.
But the question is, we've seen Sam keep some 1 land hands. Did he do that again? Looks like he didn't. There's a Steam. No.
What am I gonna do?
And Steamman's tapped. Wow, this is really a slow game from both of them.
I mean, Sam's probably feeling a little confident.
I'd say both confident based on the fact that Andrew didn't play land, but also a little bit wary because Death Shadow decks just go all out. And I feel like both of them are a little bit scared, trying to feel out where their reach is. Hey, it makes it easier for the stream to see.
It's true.
And there's the Fatal Push, followed by a Spell Pierce.
Yeah, I kind of knew that was gonna happen. I was like, I wonder if Sam did the fatal or the sideboarded in spell pierce.
Well, considering how much removal Death Shadow runs,
I wonder if Andrew put more removal out for Gordon.
yeah, I'd say that would be a pretty solid option. I imagine Dismembers. I don't know if they had that sideboard or main board. I feel like main board, but just in case. Yeah.
Actually, I'm a little confused. He didn't pay the cost. Could have.
He could not.
Spell pierce is pay 1.
Pay 2.
Ooh, that hurts.
And there's the Inquisition from Andrew. You gotta think, taking the Manamorphose, probably a good choice.
Yeah, I mean, it's basically just replace this card.
It looks like he's got an Opt, a Two Thought Scours, and a Lightning.
All around, I like what Sam's doing here. He's like, yep, you saw my hand. Keep seeing my hand. It's it's not a requirement. It's a very kind gesture to be like, this is information you should know. I'm not going to hide it from you.
Well, I imagine in game 1, whenever Andrew did that, he took his time writing down all the cards, and Sam was just like, you know what? Don't worry about it. I'll just show you. Just to save some time. There comes the Thought Scour from Sam, just trying to filter out some of those cards that Andrew already knows. Looks like he's still got the Bolt, though, ready to answer whatever he needs. And an Opt coming down from Sam. Sam's getting ready to be able to flip that at any point he wants. Which, if you're Andrew, that's scary.
Yeah, Andrew can't even get a Death Shadow out unless he gets lower on life. But the real danger is that without something to stop it now, Sam could literally bolt. I think it's another Fatal Push.
That looks like a Dismember.
Okay. And that will actually end up saving it. Definitely.
Looks like Andrew's letting it flip. Always scary.
That will get him in range to cast a Death Shadow, if that's what he wants to do.
Well, not just in range. It'll put him down to 4 life. 3 life, because he just fetched. I think Andrew's taking his time, figuring out what he wants to grab.
I feel like this is an extremely dangerous situation. On one hand, if he gets the thing he needs, he fatal pushes and just, I'm done. Save myself. But, and he's like, I understand, but.
Well, I imagine he wouldn't shock it in unless he had something to remove at this turn, especially since Sam is tapped out. Right now is the best time for it.
Yeah, I agree. It's what does he?
Chances are the reason Andrew was holding up that fetch was trigger Revolt on a Fatal Push.
I mean, it wouldn't be necessary. It's the creature.
Oh.
He's going to put that out. It's a.
My question is, why didn't Sam swing with the Horror?
Oh no, that was all on Andrew's turn.
Oh,
this
you
is
are
Sam's
right.
turn coming up. Oh, hey, we got a comment. Okay. Good to know. Thank you. I will relay that to John in the future. But yeah, he didn't get to swing it. Oh, here comes the Pyromancer, and there goes Arc-like Phoenix. Okay, so. Oh, okay, I see. just miss?
I have no idea. But back to gameplay.
I'm sorry, I was actually talking about the game. What just happened?
Oh, I believe that Sam cast the Pyromancer. I think he opted before, or not opt. He cast a Thought Scour, then the Pyromancer.
Looked like he almost cast Lightning Axe. Or...
No. He discarded that to the Thought Scour, or not discard. He milled that to the Thought Scour. Looks like Andrew is swinging with the Death Shadow.
I mean,
it is very possible Sam or Andrew could just pump up his Death Shadow to the point where even that Awakened Horror is not going to be able to block it and live. There's a Surgical on the Arclight, yeah. Putting Andrew down to 6, that's enough to be able to block, or no.
I mean, it's a 7/7 right now.
Yeah, he needs a little bit more, but he's got 2 mana untapped. There are plenty of instant speed ways to lose life. But this is gonna be close.
Yeah, especially since I believe Sam is all he's doing is sticking the token in, from blocking it, which arguably would be what you'd expect. Just will it be enough?
Yeah, if I were Andrew here, I probably wouldn't have swung with my Death Shadow. Unless I absolutely had the removal to deal with the Awakened Horror.
And he still may have it. Like, it's just weird that he's not just moving. Still waiting to see these 4-dimensional chess plays.
Andrew's got the 2 mana untapped. Let's see what happens. Sam plays a Faithless Looting. I imagine in this case...
On the stack? No.
No, he's letting it resolve.
I know one of the cards in his hand is light. So Sam, what are you going to do?
Yeah, I imagine you discard the Thing in the Ice as your first one. And what looks like a land, maybe? I'm not 100% sure. But yeah, you want to keep those 1 mana cantrip spells up, just so you can get extra tokens with the Pyromancer here.
It's moments like these where it feels really, really like, oh boy.
Well, it's a close game, and this is Andrew. If Andrew loses here, that's the round. This is finals. This is the last chance Andrew has to go 4-0. Both of them. Well, Sam's still got 1 more game if he loses, but Surgical Extraction down from Sam. Targeting what I believe to be Fatal Push.
I'm going to hit the Fatal Push. Do you got it? You got it. Oh, the nerves are killing me.
And he lets it resolve.
I see what was going on. Snapcaster. Oh, I mean, actually, that wasn't good.
Yeah, and like I was saying, there's a Timur Battle Rage. He can just cast that. Give his Death Shadow double strike. I think Andrew was trying to get a land so he could Snapcaster, Fatal Push, and then he'd have enough to where that Battle Rage would kill.
Does he run Shimmy and Spirit Guide?
Semi Spirit God? No, I do not believe so.
That would have given it two, like blue, exile, cast, and then tap for black and fatal push. He's like Sam sees his hand now, so I'm not seeing anything that can save him. So, I mean,
Well,
swing kill?
even if he didn't go and grab the fatal push, he could still block with the Snapcaster.
True, that is true. That does change a lot.
Right now, I think Andrew's just trying to stall out for time. Question or not was whether or not Sam is going to swing with the Awakened Horror here. Because he knows that Andrew has that, not Fatal Push, that Timber Battle Rage. He has the ability to give it double strike, trample, and just start swinging out, doing a lot of damage. It's just whether or not he wants to save up blocker, soak up 8 points of damage, or...
I mean, it's extremely risky. Like, at this junction, like, I don't want to reduce your life, make your Death Shadow stronger. Right now, my horror can kill your Death Shadow. You go 1 point more, giving it double strike, it would just swing through and kill me.
Well, not kill him. It would kill it would swing through the horror and deal, what, 8 points of damage?
He's kind of gonna go for broke here.
And if I was Andrew here, I'd cast the Snapcaster, maybe targeting Surgical. Thank you, Shrimpy. Happy birthday, Steve Irwin.
I saw that on Google today.
And there's the bolt coming in. Oof, risky from... Yeah, no. That... I believe that's game. Yeah. So, Sam having the bolt there to either kill the Snapcaster or bolts Andrew in the face. That's just lethal.
So is he killing him before he can declare blockers?
I would believe so, because
no, he's surgical extraction.
Yeah.
So that's so that's what
Andrew's surgical extraction, so that was 2 more damage.
So that brings him down
putting
to
him
4.
to 4.
Bolt. Oh, look.
Yeah, because he also swung with the Pyromancer.
Which is the 2-1?
Yes. If I were Andrew there, I wouldn't have cast the surgical. I would have waited until instep, just to see what interesting little tech he had. Although at the same time, Andrew could have just bolted the Snapcaster, swung in for all that damage either way.
You get to bolt it before he gets to declare blockers, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Good little nerve-wracking ending there. I really liked it. That's 2-0, right?
Yep.
Pretty good finish. Fantastic performance for Sam. I think this is his first official debuting up here.
He's been quite a bit.
A toolboxy spellcaster. Oh man, like I there's so many things I've seen that I'm like, I didn't even know that was a thing. The Terramander, the young Pyromancer coming out, like, whew, from all the directions. It's like, aha, I got your Phoenix. He said it's a sideboard for him, actually. Way to swing wide, or even create tons of chump blockers and be like, I'm just going to build. But all in all, really good games. Let's go out there and congratulate him. Congratulations to Sam, who 4-0'd the F&M this Friday. And for all you watching from home, or wherever you're watching from, whatever, this has been the Nexus Esports Friday Night Magic Modern event here at Nexus Esports on the corner of 6th and Columbus in Waco, Texas. All right, same time, same place next week. I see you all there, or see you all here. Good night.